morning, Sylvia.
Hi.
Some are still joining us, but feel free to share some thoughts.
Let me get started because we really do want to get to our alumni panel. You already met JR and Dina, Dr. Dina Brown, in the first portion of the program today. This is our final MBA preview day, and so we certainly are thrilled that you're here and that you had a chance as a prospective MBA for Executives student to hear from Chris Bauman. Chris Bauman was selected by the class of 2020 as the best, he received the Best Teaching Award. So he teaches negotiations, he's very effective, and he is often selected in one of those top spots with our IMBA students. You know, you've heard this from John and from Chris, that we are about ready to enter a fall quarter like none other. And I just want to reiterate that as we are being asked questions about what we're going to do a hybrid, we're going to do all online, we're going to do in person. The question has basically been answered. EMBA is just a step ahead, I will tell you, in that we already have a contract for the hotel, for your opening residential. We have secured the Mirage School for your kickoff day on the 20th of September. And we are clearly moving ahead, though we always will have safety and your health at paramount in our minds. For those students who do prefer remote, we will have that. So we're looking forward, particularly, I know we've got some incoming students in this session today, and we're so excited to finally meet you in person, though we will be in mask and 6 feet away, but we want to be together. We know you want to be together, and we have had the summer to work on all of the very detailed decisions that have had to, some very complicated decisions actually at the leadership of the school level. I want to just tell you, because you've certainly heard about leadership in a digitally driven world. And some people just don't get that. I think both John and John, well, both Johns and Chris did a great job of this. It has nothing to do with technology. If you're an engineer and thinking you're going to learn more R or C or Python, if you're interested in that, then there actually are classes that we can put you in, but they're not EMBA classes. They would be electives with our Masters of Business Analytics. And we cross over, and we're making that crossover is easier than it's ever been done before. We asked the class of 2020 on a exit survey, and it is a survey that I just got a portion of the results yesterday. And the question that was asked was, how valuable do you expect, sorry, wrong question. How important was the UCI Mirage focus on leading in a digitally driven world in your applying to UCI Mirage? Can I get your guesses? From the students that came in 2 years ago, what percentage do you think what do you believe the percentage would probably be of those that found that important or very important? Anybody want to take a guess? 80? That's a great guess. Anybody else? 60? Thank you, Carl. There you go. 91%, Ryan. Ryan spent a lot of time, though, on campus as a prospective student because he's taught some of the classes in one of the areas. So it's 91% believed it was important. I worry a little bit about the 9% because, again, we come back to the fact that it's not about technology, it's about leadership, and it's about people. So I think the best way to have a further and deeper understanding of all of this is I'm going to turn it over to Dina, and 4 fabulous 2020 grads, a combination of the person selected as the best leader by her classmates, and others who were Dean Scholars. So this is not just any group of students. This was a group that was very engaged and involved, which is our expectation at the Mirage School IMBA program. Dina, take it away.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, again, I'd like to welcome you all and share with you that it is a pleasure and an honor to moderate this panel this morning. Our recently minted EMBA 2020 students, they navigated one of the most digitally transformative years to date. And they will share with you how the MBA for Executives program prepared them to navigate a crisis, manage resource constraints, and even redefine community and collaboration. And in consideration of the time and really to optimize the time that we have, is that with each student or former student or recently minted MBA for Executive, I will have them introduce themselves, and then I have a very particular question to ask them to share their insights on their experience. And so I'm excited to start with now I will say this, they're all my favorite, but one of my favorite students, Byron. I would ask for you to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're doing now as opposed to even what you were doing at the beginning of your program. And then I have a very special question. I know that you can share more of your insights.
Oh, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, a pleasure to go first. A little bit of a surprise there, but let's give it a shot. Yeah, my name is Byron Faris. I've been working at Oakley for the past 13 years, and I'm actually proud to share with the group that there's another Oakley veteran on the call. So welcome, Eileen. Yeah, so back in 2007, I started as a design engineer, developing 35 new products from sketch through launch. And then in 2013, I moved to an engineering manager position and helped the extensive vertical integration efforts that were basically pulling injection molding and some decoration processes in-house to increase margin and decrease overall lead time. And then in 2017, I moved back to product development, where I currently have a team of 35 employees that are working hard to launch about 2,000 new products a year. And since starting my MBA, I've recently increased my responsibilities to include the management of the engineering cost savings lean pillar. And despite light volumes this year, we're still projected to save over $750,000. So it's been pretty cool to continue the trend there and continue the education and get a little bit more responsibility here. So yeah, back to you, Dina.
I know. I wanted you to go first because I know that we just came off of a really excellent Chris Bowman type of a talk, and I thought about really what you're able to share, and we talk about the digital transformation, but also how it applies to so many other areas. And many engineers today are faced with an important question: should I get an MBA to advance my career? And to know that hiring managers and recruiters now seek out engineers who not only are amazing at what they do, but they also bring those soft skills needed to effectively interact with their team every day. And I wanted to ask you, how did the IMBA program equip you as a highly productive engineer leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. Engineers generally think that they're smarter than everybody else, and they're probably right most of the time. But that doesn't really help, get a lot of things done. I think Chris actually mentioned, leadership is about being able to influence people and maybe get more than just what one human can do done in a 24-hour period or, an 8-hour shift, however you happen to work. But the EMBA program provides you with a technical approaches to a lot of common business problems. And going into the program, like accounting, economics, and other fundamentals, that's what was of interest to me personally. And I guess I was unaware that they would be the least beneficial for me. I realized that I needed to actually understand people more than the actual problem, which engineers generally, focus more on the problem. And so, learning more about people and how they work has helped me progress far more than the technical studies. And I think this is important for a lot of engineers to learn because they'll already thrive in the quantitative studies, if you choose to do the program, and they'll generally thrive in most problem solving scenarios. to be highly effective, you need leadership skills, and to do that, you need to understand people. And so whether you're an engineer or you just have difficulties communicating or influencing other people, and you're let's say not satisfied with the overall output that you can bring as a leader, the series of leadership modules and org behavior, like organizational behavior type classes, will give you a really good foundation to go about maybe applying a more systematic method to dealing with people and all the variation that you're going to see there.
Thank you. What a great answer. And again, those soft skills are so critical. And as we see that the research is showing that those are the areas of leadership that across the board as leaders that we really need to kind of hone that. We need to have those soft skills to be able to have those difficult conversations often at times. All right, Nick, I'd like to bring Nick to the table. Nick, please share with us a little bit about yourself. And then I'd love to ask you my very special question for you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dina. Thanks, everyone who decided to spend their Saturday morning here. My name's Nick Iyer. I'm the marketing director for Carlson and Jai Kumar LLP, which is an employment litigation and healthcare law firm in Newport Beach. When I started the program, my primary responsibilities were to kind of develop a marketing strategy for the firm, which was something that was missing from their overall business strategy for a long time. And as the program progressed, or as I progressed through the program, I was given a lot more responsibilities related to that business strategy, utilizing a lot of the skills that I learned throughout my travels in the program. So things like just microeconomics, figuring out what the best pricing would be for certain clients, aspects of strategy, aspects of digital transformation as well. So that's a little bit about who I am and sort of how my role has changed as I progressed through the program.
Thank you, Nick. And now, are you ready for your question?
Sure.
What I wanted you to speak to us about is, again, we hear a lot about digital transformation. We've already heard today about digital transformation is not about the technology. It's really about the people. So why did you decide on pursuing an MBA? And you get a two-part. Why did you decide to pursue an actual MBA? And how did your IMBA experience equip you to lead in a digitally driven world?
Okay, so I had worked for a startup early on in my career. I was the fourth person in a startup that grew to 40 employees. Soon after that, I started my own digital marketing company, which I ran with my business partner for about 7 or 8 years. And in both cases, I felt like a lot of what we were doing was stuff that we were learning on the fly and very much figuring out as we went along. And so I felt that there were certain gaps in my skill set. I also was, a literature and journalism major in college. So a lot of the quantitative classes that we had to take during the MBA, the EMBA program, I think were really missing from my skill set. So the primary reason that I enrolled in this program or applied to this program was to fill gaps in my skill set, all of which were filled over the 21-month course of the program. In terms of leading, in a digital world, I think, you're 100% right. Being in a digital world has a lot more to do with people than technology. I think technology does play a role in that it can make people better at what they do, but it's also understanding the mindset that people have to take in a world that's constantly changing, constantly evolving, where, barriers to entry are increasingly lowering for companies to become leaders, and also to recognize what technologies are important and what skill sets are important for people to kind of be on the cutting edge as as the world changes. And, you know, in the earlier session, Professor Gurbuxani talked about companies like LinkedIn, revolutionizing recruiting through a digital approach. So leading in a digitally driven world, to me, really means to think digitally, and not so much, you know, understand the fundamentals of a lot of these technologies, but really understand how these technologies can affect or impact you and make you more effective as the world changes.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. So glad that you spoke to those gaps, because oftentimes over our career, that one of the strongest character things that we can do is understand and be very aware where the gaps are, and then really to take the action to actually fill them. So I definitely applaud you for recognizing that, and again, to completing your MBA for executives. And next, I'd love to introduce you to Craig. So Craig, please tell us a little bit about yourself, and then be ready for your very special question.
All right, well, thank you for the introduction. So I'm Craig Smith. I've essentially had an engineering and product development background for the last 12 or 13 years. I've always loved the concept of thinking about something and then bringing that through to reality. It's been a huge motivator since I could, as far back as I could go in my life. So that was a big part of it. And then, as I've grown from being an engineer and then to having a venture funded company, that was actually, we actually had a workspace in the Innovation Center, which has an affiliation with the University of California. And we're developing technology products. And so back in 2015 and 16, before the fundamentals are really verbalized effectively in business plans, I was working on platform-based technologies, Internet of Things, AI, fintech sort of stuff. And I saw what UCI was doing, and it was certainly an attractive program that I knew I wanted to be part of eventually.
Well, we are so glad that you were a part, and even more excited for you as you've completed your program. And so my question for you is that they say variety is the spice of life, but how would you rate the breadth and depth of the electives offered with your IMBA program?
Yeah, so I would say that, the first couple of quarters of the program it's certainly meant to onboard the students. You're gonna be very involved. You're gonna be very ingrained with your team members. And that, as the program goes on after the third and fourth quarter, and especially into the last year, I don't know the exact percentage, but about roughly half of your scheduled calendar is going to be open for electives. And so for myself, I prefer to do a lot of economics, finance related, and some additional business related stuff. And so there's, whether you only have enough time to essentially just do the core credits, you'll still have an opportunity to drive an elective path of something that interests you. Or there's plenty of other students in the program too that completed 3 or 4 different specialties, and they stacked on as many as 2 or 3 extra classes or activities a quarter. So if you basically just have time to do all the credits that are planned for the program, you could still do a highly driven and specialized path that is effective for you. Or if you have much more time and resources, you could certainly stack on as many opportunities as you could imagine and fit into the day.
Thank you for that. So again, we talk about specialties and certificates like digital transformation and some of the extra ones that were there. And so again, the opportunity for you to really, even stretch yourself and even sample and try some things seems to be something that you took advantage of. So thank you for sharing that. And our fourth panelist, Rosie, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. And then I have such an expanded question for you that I definitely wanted to savor you for my last introduction.
Thank you so much, Dina. And good morning to everybody. It's nice to see my fellow classmates, at least through a camera, for this morning. My name is Rosie Garza. I'm the Vice President of Card Services at Unified Financial Credit Union. I basically oversee their debit and credit card portfolios and the network systems that make that plastic function every day. I've been with the organization for 15 years. A lot of my time primarily with them was in operations. I did banking operations, risk management, a little bit of loss prevention and fraud. And then right before I started the program, I was promoted to the vice president role to take over the department. There was a shift in management and they asked me to take it. Had no idea what I was doing because I, other than using my debit card, that's basically what I have, what I knew, or my credit card. And in over the course of the program, I've been able to apply some of the learnings, especially things that we did with Nick and Byron in one of our classes, and implemented operational efficiencies in the department and cut some of the processes by 42%. Able to reduce fraud losses year over year to 37%, and a lot of it was just applying some of the concepts that I learned in the program to take a different perspective, a different approach of the department. And I'm continuing to do that today. There's continuous efficiencies, new rollouts of products, and I do attribute a lot of what I'm doing at work to be related to my experience with the MBA.
Oh, great. So now your question. So we know that MBAs are great for a career change and for thriving business opportunities, especially for women. And they require more than a monetary investment. But I want to ask you, with all that you've shared and even taking on those new roles, how did you manage the balance and flow of your IMBA program? That's part one. You get a two-parter too. So how did you manage the balance and flow of your IMBA program? And you can weave into that, what is one return on your overall investment that you can directly attribute to your experience with the MBA for executives at the Paul Mirage School of Business?
Sure. So three key things that for me personally help me manage the workflow. My position at the credit union comes with a lot of responsibilities. I work for the Chief Revenue Strategic Officer, so it's all about the numbers. It's all about getting things completed in an efficient manner. Networking better was key, not only with my cohort, learning from them, spending time leveraging them from their experiences and their knowledge, but also at work, learning who to really tap in the different departments to help me get projects done and kind of get that input from them. Management skills, I had to find the control of how to divvy up the time to ensure that I was getting everything done. My job was, is critical, just as being in the program was as well. So for me, it was really the management skills part. And then organization was critical. You have to stay on top of what's due at work, what's due at school, but it's very doable. The first quarter was kind of a balancing act for me. I had to balance going back to school after so many years, kind of get that footing correct. But it does work if you do the networking, management, and the organizational, at least for me, those were key. And when I look back at the beginning of the program to when I look at myself now, and this is one of my boss is a former alumni too, and encouraged me to pursue the degree because he knew it'll make me think differently. And the program allowed me to gain a perspective of a strategic view of a situation. I tended to be very operationally driven, fix the problem and move on. So now my perspective is more to see the financial reduction, how to make more money, how to cut expenses, how to build efficiencies. And I think that's for me the overall return on the program. Yes, there's probably monetary compensation, promotions that come from it, but as an individual, I grew so much, and my role, how I take on issues and how I fix them, a lot of them is from a strategic lens perspective.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for that. I wanted to check the chat and see if there's any questions. Like I said, I know that our time was compressed, and so I want to make sure that we actually have time for questions. So if you do have any questions, if you can put it in the chat and we can address it to any member of the panel. So I wanted to pause for that cause and see if there's any particular questions that are there, and I'll check that as we begin, like I said, to wrap up. We know that we have a hard stop at 10:30. So just doing a quick check. Any questions? I know JR is managing and taking a look at that as well. So while we wait, we have questions?
Yeah, for Rosie, where's my commission check for that cost savings project?
Oh, we're gonna, yeah, we're gonna take those questions off the line, and you guys can meet in another study group roundup to deal with that one. But I do have, if there's no additional questions that are from members or students or potential applicants, I do want to ask again, and any one of our panelists can speak to this, is that taking on this program really takes you to really think differently. We heard a lot about that. And so I wanted to ask the question, like, what mindset shifts did you actually have to overcome, not only to enroll in the program, but also to really stay engaged throughout the program? And again, like I said, I want to open that up to any one that's there. And why don't we grab one person, because I see there's a question that's there. Let's see, Craig, do you have any? I'd love to see if Craig had any mindset shifts.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it on a number of levels. You definitely, I would say I really grew in ways I didn't expect to, kind of like Byron talked about, you know, going in for the numbers and finance and general management, business return on investment side of it. While that's certainly going to give you a boost, you're going to grow in ways that you don't necessarily expect. A lot of that has to do with the ways in leadership and being able to work with different people. And I feel like I was introduced to 10 different positions while I was in the program. So now I feel like I could talk to the finance person at work. I could talk to the business director. I could talk to the marketing director. You could talk to HR. You could talk to your own employees. You could talk to the people that you're trying to manage cross-functionally. And it gives you a bunch of different lenses to see the world as other professionals will see them. And it helps you jump into that mindset of not just thinking from what you're trying to accomplish, but what are the incentives that the person across the company needs to accomplish, and then how do you pair what you want to get done with the incentives that motivate them, and speak in a way that helps do it. And that's just one example, but you know, I think as you grow from an individual contributor to a manager to making more company-based strategic or initiative-based decisions, if you don't have that lens to view the world through different people and executives in the company, you're never going to get your message through. And that was certainly a roadblock further back, as you know, working from the engineering side. The other groups in the company don't necessarily see that lens to the engineering side. So talking from the product side, the value creation, the business creation, the market side, that, you know, it completely 180s your logic and how you approach problems. And I know Byron, I know Nick, I know Rosie, all think and talk in different ways now. So it looks like Byron's got some feedback too.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of dovetail into that if we have time.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, along the same lines of what Craig said, you know, as a more type A engineer, there's always a right answer kind of guy, you know, and coming from product development, you always think that you know where you want to go. But the biggest mindset change for me was having to learn how to listen and really listen to other areas of the value chain, from marketing all the way through sales and operations. Because like Craig said, you know, there's an entire value chain there. You play whatever part of that value chain. And if you don't listen and understand what the other chunks of that value chain are doing, and you're not in sync and you can't produce something end to end in the best possible way, then your business is going to suffer. And so listening for me and learning to listen and learning to be patient was the biggest mindset change for me. I'm still working on that.
We're always in a state of growth. I do see your question, Philip. Sylvia's responded in the chat to your question, but I do want to quickly turn this over to JR. And I know that we'll still be around for any additional questions and things that you need, but I want to go ahead and turn it over to JR. But first, want to say thank you for this phenomenal panel and your insights that you shared. kudos, kudos, kudos to you. JR.
It is such a pleasure to speak with all of you today. And excuse me, I wanted to follow up on Sylvia's response in the chat box and actually just point out to all of you, in case you are not aware, that in addition to the healthcare leadership track, which is very special to the EMBA program, as Sylvia mentioned, and Philip, I'll get some information specific to that to you following. I will be reaching out to most of you, actually each of you following this. And my alums, thank you so much for being here today. And before I go too far, Dr. Dina, thank you so much for sharing your skills with us today and letting us get to know you a little bit, since we are so thrilled to have you on our team now. So in addition to the healthcare leadership track, you have the opportunity to also specialize in innovation and entrepreneurship, in digital transformation, or in real estate. You have the ability to focus your electives or not. Sometimes you want to take something from everything. Sometimes you absolutely want a specialization, and sometimes you want more than one, which we have known EMBAs to do from time to time, as we tend to be high achievers. So there is a way to personalize your MBA for you and to determine whether this is the right time in your career, what are your goals, and how the MBA can serve that. So as you're looking here at what I have listed as the next steps, if you haven't had a conversation with me about your goals, I welcome that opportunity, and I'll be inviting you to have that conversation with me. Some of you have spoken with another member of the team and you get to know me a little later in the process. I enjoy that as well. And it is not too late to apply. It is July, and classes do start officially in October with your first class weekend, and our opening residential is in September. So we are getting ready and starting to pull that class together and form those study groups, but we want to weed in the most qualified applicants to join this class so that you will have the benefit of the amazing diversity of business perspectives in addition to the professors as you learn through the program. I do want to point out very quickly that you do not need a GMAT or a GRE. So if you haven't done that, do not worry. You do not have to accomplish that in the next couple of weeks or months. We are much more interested in what you've contributed to your industry and the work experience you are bringing to the table, as well as your prior education. And it was asked earlier in the chat box in the previous session with Professor Bellman, do you have to have a business background academically and prerequisite to the program? No. You can be an art history major and have something very unique you're also bringing to the program that we would enjoy. So I don't want to keep everyone too long. I know that we have taken the morning time from you, and I hope you had a good cup of coffee while you were with us today. But I do want to also point out briefly before we go that the number one thing we want you to do in the next few weeks is get to know us. While we're getting to know you, we want you to get to know us. So I'm going to be inviting each of you to participate in a virtual class visit this coming weekend. So you'll have an experience exactly like the current students are now, virtually participating in their classes. So you'll be able to see what that experience is like. And then when you're in class this fall, we will have that time with you as well. And then as well, I want to point out two of our very important EMBA partners. If you're curious about the network and the people you're going to meet and the organizations that we find valuable and that we partner with, please consider these two events. Leadership in Heels is having an upcover conversation about bold leadership, and Executive Next Practices is going to be talking about the leading trends today in HR. So if you're interested in any of these three things, feel free to reach out to me, but I am definitely going to be reaching out to each of you as well. So let me briefly check the chat box and make sure there's nothing we haven't addressed. And Philip, thank you for your comment. I think we have addressed most things today. So I'll stay on for a few minutes if anyone has any questions they want to ask me. Otherwise, have a lovely Saturday, and everyone out there, be safe. Thank you for coming.